Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty competitors. On the left-hand side, representing the High Elves and DBD, is going to be the fearsome Papa Palpatine, and on his right is the Vampire Coast Mason WP, a really good competitive player who I've seen on ladder quite a few times and had the pleasure of facing. Very good player all round. So let's hop in here and have a quick little look at the builds. Looks like ambushed in the forest immediately is going to be some Illyrian Reavers, and they're certainly outmatched in the woods here. So we have one unit of Illyrian Reavers as well as the line chariots here on this flank. But for the main battle line of the High Elves, it's going to be pretty rock and roll. We have Rangers dodged all the way along, dual-wielding sword maniacs who will come in and carve up any of those pesky zombies with deadly efficiency very, very quickly. So awesome frontline choice there. In the back line, of course, up against the undead, you tend to want a bucket ton of archers to try and countershoot bombers and handgunners, and that's just what we have in the form of a ton of basic archers, as well as one unit of Lothran Seagull. In fact, it is the Storm Riders. Such a badass name for a pretty standard unit. They look very cool with their little red sashes coming across. They have charge defense against large foes, anti-large, and can Vanguard deploy, all that good stuff. And believe it or not, these bad guys do cause fear, so a really nice backline utility tool there. Up in the skies, we do have the mighty Alariel the Radiant, and she's rather scary on her mighty pigeon. She has huge healing potential coming with the Star of Avalon, Arcane Conduit, as well as Earthblood, but a sneaky Tempest in the back pocket in case we Sulu for Harken. Now, it's not so good against him as it is Overlords because of his magic resistance, but it will pin him in pace and also save Alariel if she gets in a dodgy situation. Down here, hidden in the forests, we have some war lines as well, just the basic variety, as well as another chariot. And the war lines, I'm a big fan of these bad boys. We haven't seen them too much in quite a while here on the channel, so wanted to showcase them a little bit more. And these chariots are probably my favourite chariots in the game. We also have some more Illyrian Reavers over here. Now, for the main forces of the Vampirates here, looks like we are led by her Solostra Diaphin herself, on top of her mighty Crabbo. Now, she's a lord you don't get to see terribly often. That's because she lacks the healing of other casters, but still a very competitive pick. Coming in with Ghosts of the Past for that lovely Damned Knight summon, Song of Enfrallment, Fog of the Damned, Denizens of the Deep, as well as Tide Call. She's going to be rolling dirty with a Gunnery Right in the back, and then a ton of Crabbos. So we have basic Rotten Prometheans, as well as the Lamprey's Revenge, incredibly sticky unit because of their regeneration. A couple of Fellbats, a couple of Depth Guard as well. We've seen these guys recently highlighted on the channel. They are absolute lawnmowers. Very interested to see them go up against the Rangers. But a really fun deployment. He's split his forces very heavily in two here. Over on this flank, hidden in the trees, we have the fast-moving Scurvy Dogs, as well as the Night Terrors, regiment of renowned Morngulls, who will obliterate infantry very quickly, but at the same time, they can rampage. Looks like we have another unit of Scurvy Dogs just mopping up those Illyrian Reavers, which is a really nice early pick here for the Vampirates. Now, I like the fact his right-hand side is so deathly fast, because splitting up your forces like this is incredibly risky. If the High Elves do notice this, they can simply pick and choose a target, float over here, destroy this half of the build before the other half even has a chance to engage. But luckily, these are all fast-moving skirmish forces, so they should be able to escape the worst of the High Elves' wrath. So in comes the lovely Solostra here, pushing forward on her crab. It is funny she loses a Feral, despite the fact she is still obviously a Feral on top of the mount, but I guess an Inferior crab would be slightly overpowered. It's going to be waddling around, just checking out the opponent's build, before darting back to the cover of the trees, and it certainly doesn't want to mess with this many archers, which would be rather scary. Over here, hidden in the trees, it looks like the Lion Chariots have darted in, doing a little bit of damage before falling back. Alariel is here as well to support, just in case things get a little bit sticky, but it looks like the Chariots should be able to pull away from the Scurvy Dogs, and rather wisely, the Vampirates player is going to be pulling back his troops as well into the forest away from the archers. He certainly wants to try and strike on all sides at once to pressurise the archers as much as possible. The High Elves are having none of it here, manoeuvring the war lines over to this side as well to help support and really try to drive back this skirmish core. It looks like it's working. Scurvy Dogs fleeing before the mighty lions, and the chariots do indeed give chase. The Night Terrors in hot pursuit. Apart from that, it looks like the High Elves are going to be reforming the ranks, reforming those lines to help face the opponent who is going to be stalking from the trees here. Slowly advancing, which is something that has to happen, unfortunately, with the Vampirates. They are a rather slow faction with a lot of their undeadly troops. So this build's not too much slow troops, realistically, with Depth Guard and a load of crabs that make up the main battle line. Looks like we have an engagement going on in the trees here. The Lion Chariots doing their best job to run over Scurvy Dogs. Should be able to do relatively well here, as they are getting buffed up as well by an Earthblood. And the Radiant Queen herself is going to be darting in, helping to mop up the Night Terrors. Now, if this can be won by the High Elves, that is a huge boon straight out of the gate to their forces. But it looks like the main fight is going to get underway here. Diafin does push up, and she's going to be summoning those damned Knights Errant, who really are a pain in the butt. Some of them in the back lines, they're ethereal, they're sticky to shut down. They're going to be darting on top of all these ranged troops and forcing off the archers. Looks like a spell was about to go down on the Storm Riders, but they were very quick to react there. Going to be falling back to try and pressurize the damn Knights and keep them pinned in place with that anti-large. But it looks like we're also going to be seeing a crab summon come down on top of the archers. And all of a sudden, the High Elf back line is in complete disarray. And all of their counterpunch troops in the form of the Chariots and White Lions are committed to this fight in the forest, but it is going rather well. It looks like the Chariots as well as the Warlines are feasting upon the Night Terrors and forcing off all the Scurvy Dogs. So this is going to be a big success for the High Elves, but can their main line hold out until their return? It's not looking too good. It looks like the Lion Chariots have formed their way into the back line to try and block up the damned Knights and protect the Archers. The Storm Riders as well doing a fantastic job, but that crab is devouring Elves left, right and centre. Nice little pocket of strength has formed by the forces of the High Elves, but it looks like the Vampires certainly know this and continue to push Soloster towards them, as well as Fellbat's going to be darting in from deep behind enemy lines. These Lamprey's Revenge as well are going to be dragging those rotting corpses over to the archers and clobbering them into the dirt. Scary stuff, and it is complete disarray. Rangers have pushed forward, but they have zero good targets. They're trying to drill Depth Guard, who do have the hunger, so the more they fight, the better healing they're going to get. And you can see the Rangers not getting too much good value there whatsoever. Looks like one unit of archers has fallen back to the high ground here, trying to follow the old age technique of the high ground tactic from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and going to rain fire down from the high ground onto Diafin, but she is incredibly tanky. The main battle line is just an absolute mess at this moment. Hidden deep in the trees, it looks like the Night Terrors are finally going down, completely swarmed by a combination of war lines as well as the Chariots. Alarielle, though, is going to be darting back to the main battle line, knowing her job is done here, and those High Elf forces can come to the aid of the beleaguered main battle force. Glorious play here from the Chariots is exactly what you want to be doing with them. Pushing through those Depth Guard, running that over these elite troops, taking pretty much no damage in return, and then bouncing over to a new engagement. Really perfect Chariot play coming on here. It looks like the Rangers not having the best time. Fog of the Damned has gone down, which not only has a ridiculously cool animation, it's actually a really powerful hex, and forcing these Rangers as well as Illyrian Reavers to bite the bullet up against the Rotten Prometheans. Now, Rotten Prometheans don't do the hugest amount of damage output here. Oh, lovely Tide Call as well, down on top of those archers who do get flattened a bit there. Yeah, the crabs aren't going to be doing the most damage output. They're more there to be absolute tanks. So they still need to be kind of synergizing a little bit more of the Depth Guard on top of them, dealing the damage, crabs tanking it in return. Looks like one of the summons is about to dissipate. Balance power currently very heavily in favour of the Vampirates, but that often happens when you have extra units on the field. Archers are being swarmed by the Fellbats. One of these Chariots might want to disengage to save them, but at the same time it looks like they are bounding towards the enemy, trying to help out the main fight. The Lion Chariots here have been hit by a Song of Enfrallment, which not only lowers their melee attack, but also their speed, allowing her to catch them, pin one of them in place, and this is definitely going to go smash. That mighty pincer snapping and hacking at the Chariot. The brave White Lions on top, fighting side by side with their War Lions, and it looks like some more have returned to aid, but certainly not going too well for them. You can see their HP pool has dropped significantly, down just 850, despite the fact they still somehow, by some miracle, have all three Chariots remaining. More Chariots falling back, as well as the War Lions, who have managed to gain all the way up to a silver chevron here. They did start with a couple of chevrons, but still very impressive stuff. And the Depth Guard are slowly being dragged down by sheer weight of number. Rotten Prometheans as well are slowly going down by consistent archer play. Beautiful High Elf play to keep these guys alive and active during some fantastic Vampirates pressure. In the back line, Fellbats are going to be cleaning up these Storm Riders and hunting down archers wherever they can find them. Looks like some Rangers are pushing out in an attempt to rescue those troops, but it's going to be hard pressed to do so. Archers have a nice little firing concave now, as you can see, dotted all the way along, firing in on top of these crabs, who are now going down and disintegrating, -6 health. The big problem here for the High Elf forces, of course, is going to be Solostra. She's dueling very effectively up against the Lion Chariots, forcing them back, and this one is pretty much gone for, only 287 health remaining, and she's now butt-slamming Alarielle with her mighty Crabbo. That's disgustingly smelly. I'm just Going to point that out there. But on top of Alarielle, who's not having the best time, she does pop Arcane Conduit there, but the Song of Enfrollment is going to be slowing her down, and she may well be trapped. It looks like that was slightly too late. She'd already got the distance, managed to get up in the skies, otherwise that could be a dead Alarielle there. Over here in the main battle lines, the war lines continuing to cycle charge with their chariots, which is, I think, a really good highlight for them. Up to 32 kills already. Depth guards are starting to get a little bit beleaguered and stuck here. Lamprey's Revenge also rocking beside them. They need to form a bit of a mobile death ball here. Otherwise, units like Alarielle will continue to cycle charge in. I haven't seen too many Stars of Avalon go down, so she probably has a few of them as well, saved up in the back pocket. It wouldn't surprise me, however, if she had used some originally in that engagement in the forest. So it looks like in the back lines, finally, the High Elves have managed to rally their forces. The Fellbats being forced off here. And we have a decent number of archers coming back here. 56 in this unit, 25 here, as well as 22 of the Storm Riders. That's a lot of pressure to pit on the Armoured Crabs in the late game, and plenty of Rangers to saturate in on top of them to soak up and absorb that damage. Looks like the war lines have hit their healing cap here. Very impressive stuff by them. They do lack, really solid leadership, so it's been impressive how he's managed to keep them fighting this entire time. And the line chariots as well, up to double chevrons and 96 kills. In the distance, good mobility play using Alarielle just to mop up depth guard who are slightly further away from the majority of the forces. And as you can see, the archers are spread out in different formations, so it's impossible to shut them down all in one go. But despite all of this, the Vampires player has been playing fantastic himself, putting on consistent pressure throughout, and he's got still a really decent chance actually being up ahead in the balance of power due to the power of Solostra here. If she can survive the remaining ammunition on these archers, there is just no good units left to deal with her. War Lion chariots are slightly better than your average one, with their armor piercing and taking down larger threats, but the actual war lines down very low health-wise aren't going to have a fantastic time. Lamprey's Revenge are shooting those burst shotguns up into the skies at the moment, trying to ping down that pain-in-the-butt pigeon lady, and they're giving it a good go, trying to stack up on top of Diaphin here and absorb some of that damage whilst pushing the archers. But you can see it is going to be a kiting game for the High Elves from here on out, pulling back with the archers. They've got no ammunition, they're not worth too much, but you can certainly use them to drag out the enemy's attention while all the other archers rain hell from afar. War Lions do come in for a lovely bounding charge into Solostra, who does drop her debuff once more. Just going to be slowing these guys down. You can see many a War Lion are being crushed under the might of the Crabbo. Lamprey's Revenge are going to be fighting relatively strong as well, because this big blob of High Elves is all getting hit by the Fog of the Damned, plus the Song of Enfrollment, but a Star of Avalon does come in as a bit of a counterpunch. At the end of the day, at least it's going to keep these guys alive and pinning the enemy in place, but it looks like the War Lions are done for at this point. Of course, their healing cap has been reached. The Lion chariots should get out of there and do some lovely cycle charging once the Star of Avalon has dissipated. Alarielle the Radiant fighting strong as well. Not the best melee combatant, but certainly no joke on her pigeon. And it looks like they've done the job through sheer weight of number, with the Lamprey's Revenge almost going down here. Still 120 kills on these bad boys. Certainly impressive stuff so far. Solostra, once again, desperately trying to chase the Lion chariots, but unable to pin them in. These guys have been such a big pain all game so far. But the High Elves are in mass exodus here. A ton of their troops are breaking. They are going to come back, but if you break too many times, it will shatter you. I'm not sure if it's exactly 3 times, but it's around that ballpark. And it looks like the archers are starting to run a little low on ammunition. The unit of 25 still has a decent amount, but apart from that, they are very, very low at this point. Lamprey's Revenge are still holding strong on their leadership. Unfortunately for this Vampires build, there was no healing, which is a huge loss. Imagine the Lamprey's Revenge right now get into that healing cap consistently, Resurrector models and all that scary stuff. It would have been particularly nasty. But Alarielle once again coming in to poke at the crab. The pigeon is the apex predator in this little matchup. Lamprey's Revenge are finally going completely down. Leadership minus 20, minus 17. They're going to crumble into dust, and it's simply going to be Solostra against the world as more chariots come bounding in with a thunderous charge, trying to crack the outer shell of the scary Crabbo. But archers are pretty much out of ammunition at this point. 2 units being forced into hand-to-hand combat, and others running very, very low at this point. Song of Enfrollment once again gone down by Solostra. Chariots are just about going to get an escape here. I like the idea of hitting them with a Song of Enfrollment to try and catch them on their escape. And Alarielle goes in for a very risky attack at this point. The Song is still up and active, so she's basically going to do no damage, and her speed is debuffed. If Solostra wasn't quite so slow, perhaps she would have been able to pop on there and do some really nice damage. Fog of the Damned has been popped. That minus to the leadership certainly going to affect these low tier units such as archers and the returning war lines, who are already absolutely knackered by this point. And the High Elves are falling back here, guys. It's not looking good all of a sudden. Line chariots are done for, the war lines pretty much, and Alarielle is incredibly low here. But her leadership is holding strong as the Dire Fins wavers. This awesome floaty ethereal skull is slowly going to dissipate and allow the archers to regain their confidence once more and throw themselves back into the fray in the name of Ulthuan and all the good in the world. Alarielle once again coming in, poking at the crab's rear end, which is a good way of doing it. Of course, if you attack a unit from behind, it does halve its melee defense, which is pretty huge when it comes to hitting a unit. And Dire Fin now is -3 leadership, -17. She's wavering, she's crumbling. Balance power is now heavily in favour of the High Elves with a few shots remaining. It looks like the elven accuracy of their archers is going to pay dividends. Just as I say that, a ton of arrows missed. But now they're trying to slowly find a connection again, I suppose. You can't blame them. They're not all Legolas at the end of the day. Warlines fighting to the bitter death do come in here, and they shall be feasting on crab tonight. A Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the High Elves, and that certainly was Pyrrhic. Not much remaining at the end there whatsoever. Massive shout out to Papa Palpatine, as well as Mason WP here for a fantastic game with some brilliant tactics, and for sending this one in via my Discord. Quick note on that, guys, if you want to see your replays up on the channel, you can. There's a link down below in the description to my Discord where you can submit replays, get involved in tournaments, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for more Total War Warhammer content. If you want to support the channel in any other ways, there are links in the description below to my Patreon, or you can become a YouTube channel member. But anyway, awesome stuff by both of these top lads. Let's go through the Vampire Count's build first. So, Solosta, the often not seen Lord, despite the fact she is incredibly powerful, her summons in particular work wonders, but you often have to invest in another hero caster to bring that Invocation Heck, and of course Raise Dead and other spells are really, really potent and scary. She managed to whop up a massive 3k damage value, and was a real solid backbone, soaking up so much damage from the high elf pressure to keep the rest of the force fighting and active. Now, it was a very interesting build all round. Certainly, it's like I've not seen kind of done too many times before. It was a Crab Rush, but with Depth Guard, who certainly did pretty good for themselves. 6,400 damage out here and 8,000 here. 1,100 damage value as well, but they are incredibly expensive. So to pay for themselves, it's a little bit rough when they're not as supported. I think if they're fighting on top of the crabs, they'd have had a slightly better time. As you can see, the crabs absorb a ton of damage, but don't do that much back. However, the Lamprey's Revenge, a little bit of a different unit there. 18k damage dealt, 3.5k damage value. That's certainly packing a punch. Now, unfortunately, the Night Terrors and Skodogs got forced off early on in that really hard engagement over on the right-hand side, which was a risk. You know, the Illyrian Reavers got quite lucky that they spotted them, and yes, it was a sacrifice, but it let Mason know where the High Elves were, finish up those Illyrian Reavers, and then find out, allowed Palpatine, though, to find out where Mason's troops were, so he can swoop in the mid-game and go for a lovely rear attack. Think of those Illyrian Reavers who bravely gave their lives to give Palpatine a little bit of map awareness. If they hadn't died, it could have been a different story all round. But beautiful play all round by Mason. Really good attacking pressure from the start. As for Papa Palpatine, as expected from him, as you've seen him on this channel multiple times before, masterful play, especially with those scary chariots. I've seen him use Gore Beast chariots in a similar fashion, and yeah, pretty scary stuff. One, not doing amazing because it did get hit by the slow and beat to the death, but the other unit, 10,000 damage dealt, 96 kills, and a whopping 1,800 damage value. Certainly scary stuff there from the Lion Chariots, but the War Lions were some real MVPs as well, fighting to the bitter death, and also being a really good unit to bounce between combats, using them in the same way you would a chariot. 7,900 damage dealt, 1,500 damage value. Brilliant stuff there from the Wild Beasts. As for Alarielle, she's not normally known for doing a huge amount of damage, but a bit of a different story here via good cycle charging. 5,500 damage dealt, 1,500 damage value is scary stuff. Now, the Rangers suffered a little bit. You can see a few of them managed to pay for themselves, but others just got wrecked by the big crabs, of course, and the Depth Guard. And the Archers slowly accumulated value over the course of the battle, and that was a real core way that Palpatine managed to win this. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.